Hello and welcome to the Thoughtful Realtor Podcast. I'm Connie Chung.
I'm Cliff Tsang.
And I'm Kenny Gong, and we are the founders and partners of Willamar Real Estate.
And this is a real estate podcast where we get personal.
Every episode, we sit down for insights, stories, and conversations about things in the market today, running a real estate team in Northern and Southern California, and finding our way as leaders and business partners.
And today we are talking about something that can make or break someone's career: mentorship and coaching. I know for me, my mentors and coaches have been a really, really big influence that have helped me find direction. And in this episode, Connie, Cliff, and I are going to explore how we ourselves in this stage of our lives and our careers now have the opportunity to be mentors and coaches ourselves and what that means for us. So shall we jump right in? Maybe we can go around, and how would each of us describe our own mentorship and or coaching styles? And if you can give a little bit of an example or of a situation that best illustrates that, that would also be good. So who wants to start us off?
I'll go first. Sure. I would say my mentoring and coaching style is very nurturing. And I think this is probably how I'm just in general in a lot of ways, where I think the mommy comfort and just very uplifting and positive side comes out. And I think I'm just a very positive, optimistic person. So I always like to check in on people and help them focus on the positives of where their strengths are and see the highlights and remember the good things, because in mentorship, there's always going to be the hard things that someone is going through because they're going through it often for the first time. So when you can balance that and stay positive and encouraging and supportive, I think that is my approach. I also like to focus on making sure it's holistic. So while a lot of it is working in the semantics and the mechanics of learning the day-to-day of our job as realtors, it's also seeing the personal side. And I always like to say, okay, are you getting enough rest? Are you calendaring in your personal time? Are you making sure to put away your phone during the personal time that you want to be present? Those kinds of things. So I would say that's how I like to go about it. What about you, Cliff?
For me, the word that comes to mind is strategic, or at least I try to be strategic with mentorship and coaching, because I think I'm mid-30s now. I feel like there's different buckets of people that I'm hoping to mentor or coach. And I think there isn't a one-size-fits-all box for each person. It really kind of depends on where they are in their career and life. So that's what I mean by strategic, because I think some people might need a tougher conversation and some people, as Connie mentioned, needs more nurturing. I'm not as good on the nurturing side, but I think just having some thoughtfulness around that. The example that comes to mind is, I mentioned a few times, I'm part of this men's group called Go Abundance. We're also put into these pods. So there's 4 or 5 of us, including myself in the group, and varying ages, varying life situations, although 4 of us are kind of in the same spot, and we have one guy that's younger. And I think that illustrates the different mentorship coaching style. With 4 of the guys, I think I talk more as peers and advice on a peer level. And it's nice having the younger guy in our pod, just because I can switch gears. I see him, he's in his late 20s, so he's talking about dating life. He's also a real estate agent in Austin, getting his business started. He's talking about building a team, all of those things that I think are just a different previous life stage that I was in, and able to give them some advice on those things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Kenny?
Similar to Connie, I strive to approach mentorship and coaching from both a business and a personal way, and really try to think about what connections can I make, or what connections can I help the mentee make between what's going on in their personal lives and what's going on in their professional lives. Because I think that, especially in real estate, it's so intertwined. And as I've said oftentimes, this industry really, really shows you your reflection. It just reflects back to you everything that's going on in your life. And so because of that, I know how much someone's personal experience, whether that's whatever's going on internally, really, really shows up externally in how they show up for their clients and how they show up as a team member. And so I think that's kind of the root of what my mentorship and coaching style looks like. And then I probably err on the side more of nurturing. My mentorship and coaching has certainly evolved over the years. I think I've gotten to also now bring in more pragmatism into that, really, really thinking about how can I bring a little bit more structure into what that coaching and mentorship looks like, and providing that structure in a way that is still nurturing, but allows people to see their goals with a little bit more structure. And I think that that has been really helpful for me, because a lot of times when I first started mentoring, it was more loosey goosey and go with the flow. And now there's still that, but I think there's many more spreadsheets as part of my mentorship and coaching.
Kenny, what kind of people do you draw as a coach or mentor?
Well, if I think about the people that I coach now, they do range from the analytical to the free spirited. So I think I actually really, really like being able to adapt, kind of a little bit what Cliff was talking about, adapt my style to the personality of the person that I'm coaching or mentoring. So I think it's all kinds of different people.
Yeah. This question reminds me, Brody, my coach, has shared with me a cool lesson, which was the 7 different forms of leadership. I might be getting it wrong, but there's the apprenticeship model, there's the shadowing, and I think there's just different forms of leadership that's effective with different types of people. Some folks much rather just copy what their leader is doing, and then that's how they get good at it and build the confidence. Some other people are the task-based one. You give them a little chunk to do, and then you review their homework, and then you give them an A, and then they move on to doing sections 1 and 2. And some people just follow the rah-rah. They will just commit to that leader. And I think a good leader doesn't just have one way to mentor or coach. Because the goal is to get I think this question, what it's getting to is, how do you get your mentee to the finish line? How do you get them to success? I think that's the hallmark, the trademark of a good mentor.
Are there, of those 7, I don't know if they're styles, I don't know what they're modalities, orientations of that leadership, are there ones that you thrive in, and are there ones that you need to grow in?
I think I do well with, I don't know what it's called, the piecemeal, giving a little bit of homework, checking on it. And also, I like the modeling. This is what I expect from you. I'll do it, and then you mimic. The one that I'm personally working on is being more of a vocal leader, more of the rah-rah, Might be like giving a speech at dinner or giving a speech at side by side or something like that, where that's another form of leadership that you can draw people to. And I just have mental blockers around that I'm working through.
Do you want to share some of those mental blockers?
I was gonna say the same.
Yeah. Some of the mental blocker is, I am not a leader in that form. That is not my type of leadership.
Wow. That's so fascinating to see that, Cliff, because as your colleague, I totally see you as someone like that. Every time you give a speech in front of our team or a larger gathering, I'm always very in awe, because you have this charisma and this energy around you, and you're very articulate and eloquent and inspiring, which yeah.
Thank you. I need to hear those words more. I then have another mental blocker where I'm like, she's just saying that. Like,
No!
there's layers to why people have blockers. So.
Yeah.
There was a reason why you were a state finalist, or did you even win in speech?
But this brings up something that I find really interesting about being a coach and a mentor. And I was mentioning earlier before that this industry is a reflection, is a mirror to everything that we're experiencing in our personal and professional lives. And we face everything, all the insecurities, all the strengths, everything, we're faced with it in this industry. But I think also in particular, as a coach and a mentor, that is also what we do, right? That's a huge part of what we do, is reflect back what we're observing, not from a place of pumping someone's ego up unnecessarily, but just reflecting back on what we're seeing as an outsider. And I think that's the power of a coach and a mentor, is for someone who's outside of your head to just reflect back what is actually happening in reality. And I find that that has been one of the best parts of what I've really appreciated about being coached and mentored, is to be able to see things that I didn't see, or to be able to hear things that I didn't see in myself, for better or for worse. And then now to turn it around, and for the people that we coach and mentor to say, have you thought about this based on what I'm experiencing from you, right? Like what I'm seeing from you, because it may or may not align with what you're actually experiencing for yourself.
Ooh, that is such a good topic for us to talk. Yeah, I think what you're talking about is there's a concept of the Johari window. It's
Mm.
like blind spots.
Mm.
The definition of a blind spot is something that is there, but you are not aware of. Everyone has blind spots.
Yeah,
And the thing is that you can't know them because they're your blind spot.
right.
So that's why I think that's where a coach can be so, so powerful is not only are they someone that you trust, but hopefully they are helping you see the blind spot. And usually the
Mm-hmm.
blind spot to someone who knows you well is pretty apparent what it
Mm-hmm.
is. But that person in the driver's seat doesn't have the awareness of the blind spot. And then
Mm-hmm.
that coach can help redirect and help you want to maybe work on that blind spot
Mm-hmm.
as well. So
Yeah. What I also think is really interesting about coaching and mentorship is that it's not up down, right? There's something really special about it that's not necessarily an authority figure and it's flat. Coaching and mentorship can come from your peers and it could come from someone that I'm managing professionally can also coach and mentor me, or someone who has a ton more experience in one area than me. I'm still able to coach and mentor them. And I think that's the power of coaching and mentorship to what you're talking about, Cliff, which is like being able to just see and notice what someone may not be able to see and notice for themselves and articulate and help someone through that or help them see it. And that's the real power in what the coaching and the mentorship relationship is. And of course, because we're all professionals, we're all adults here, right? We all come with lots of experience and lots of wisdom and lots of insight. So that wisdom and that experience and insight can be really shared amongst the entire team, which I've seen certainly for our team, mentorship happening across the board, regardless of how much experience someone has in real estate. They still have life experience that they can bring to share some insights. What are some ways that maybe recently or maybe not so recently, mentors or coaches have helped you all find your way?
I'll go first. I think for me, it's just getting out of my own head.
Yeah.
It's mentioning what you talked about earlier about blind spots or awareness. Just doing things that might seem silly, but I understand the intent behind it. For example, one thing that Brody had me do early on was I used to get frustrated. Oh, I didn't park in the right spot. I didn't optimize the parking spot. I could have gone that one right next to the exit, and I now have to circle back to the back, and I'm like, oh, that was a mess up on my part or something. And he had me just track just all the decisions that I made in a week, and then
uh,
look back in a week and be like, did any of those matter? And almost I can't even remember one of them that did. Like went for the chicken sandwich versus the burger. All those things where I'd be like, oh, did I do the right one? And then in hindsight, it has no impact on you, so don't even stress about it.
hmm,
So that's helped me make my decisions a lot quicker because I used to be
mhm.
afraid of making the wrong decision. That's how I grew up. Don't
Yeah.
make a mistake. You get hit. Tongue teal.
I recently started seeing business slash life coach, although more focused on business. And yeah, as we've shared many times, the business of real estate is so personal that it just infiltrates your life in so many ways. So it's very inclusive of both. And mine, I think, has brought up some blind spots or things I've never considered. For example, my coach Linda would ask, what have I done to schedule in rest? Which I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of such a thing. Or she'll help me reflect on some of the things I'm doing because I'm so task oriented or always planning out what I need to get done. Working with her has really helped me take a bird's eye view in terms of examining and reflecting upon and evaluating, because I think so much of our business is forward thinking and planning for the future and making sure we do what we need to get done. That's been really helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, I think one of the biggest ways that my coaches have helped me find my way is similar to, I think maybe there's a through line with both the things that you all shared, which is about tracking and just being aware of how we spend our days and our time, right? And not just that, but tracking progress over time. That's been a huge, huge, huge benefit of having a coach who I've worked with for a long time is that my coach is able to help me reflect on what has actually happened. So whether that is in a day or whether that's over the course of multiple years, it's just being able to track all of those things and then use that history and use those lessons from the past to move forward. That feels like the essence of what not only have I gotten out of my coaching relationships, but I think also just out of the essence of coaching in general, is having someone to help you see what is actually happening in life and turn those into insights to how to be better. And I think that's the thing, is so much of our days are spent not clueless, but just not aware of what's happening. And so to be able to say, okay, what's the decision that you made? Every single one of those decisions, the chicken sandwich or the pizza, did that matter? Right. And just being able to be like, oh, you spent a lot of time thinking about that decision. And was it helpful? Was it impactful? Are there other decisions that you could have made? Or whatever it is, how did you spend your time? That's what I spend a lot of my time coaching now on. How do you spend your time, right? Are you doing the things that are going to move you to where you want to go? And if you're not, that's totally fine. Let's reflect back on how do we create a system, or how do we create processes that allow you to do what you want to do, that you set out to do. Yeah. Should we conclude this episode? We did quite a juicy amount in there.
Yeah. How about if someone is looking to get a coach? What's a tip you would share with them on how to find a coach that's right for them?
I would challenge that person to get a coach who's not like them.
Ooh.
I think it's very natural to get a coach who is cut from the same cloth. Hey, I think this way, so I want someone to reinforce that. And assuming it's a good coach who's experienced, who is just good in their own lane, getting someone who thinks almost radically different from you will help you with your blind spots, and I think could be very effective.
Good tip. Con?
Mine would be to get someone similarly to hiring a realtor, is someone you can really trust in sharing all of your dirty laundry or just things you may not be so proud of. Because I think, in working with a coach, you want to be so vulnerable, and you're going to share some things that you might not even be proud of, or things you're embarrassed by. So someone you just feel very in good hands with, where you can just be your full self and open and honest and vulnerable.
Yeah. My tip is that sometimes you have to kiss a couple frogs in order to find the right coach. And I think people can get a really good sense just from a single conversation, but dating is helpful and is a good chance to see, what drives with you. Because I think some people, like what Cliff was talking about, really resonate with someone who's completely different with them. And you'll know it. I feel like you'll know it from the first conversation. But sometimes that might not necessarily feel right. And so trying on a different couple coaches is always good. Yeah, like therapists, like dating.
All the things. Well, that concludes today's episode. We'd love to hear your experiences of either being mentored or coached by others, or if you've actually served as a mentor or coach yourself. You can find us at willamar.com or on Instagram at The Thoughtful Realtor, and reach out to us directly. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. We read each and every one of your reviews and always appreciate when you share the love. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.